And then the next one's going to be your Trichuris, trichuria. That's going to be a whipworm. I will tell y'all the completely inappropriate way to remember this one shortly. The infective stage is the embryonated ova. Remember your ETA, anaerobius, trichuris, and ascaris are all going to be the embryonated ova. The method is ingestion. The diseases or symptoms often accompanied by a prolapsed rectum. And the method of diagnosis is going to be identifying an unembryonated ova in the stool sample. Then you've got your key characteristics. As an adult, they have a thin anterior, which is where the mouth is, with a thick posterior, which is considered the tail. And then they have a the anterior is the mouth, and then, yeah, I think the posterior is still the tail, but they have it a whip-like curled tail. I'll have to look that up, because when I looked it up, because I always thought of the anterior as the opposite side, but it says no, the anterior is generally the mouth. But they might just say it's a whip-like curled tail because it really looks like it should be the tail end. And then the ova is barrel-shaped with polar plugs and a double wall. So Trichuris, trichuria. Trichuris. Trichuris trichuria is the whipworm. So your infective stage is going to be the embryonated ova. Method is going to be ingestion. Diseases or symptoms. It's going to be a prolapse rectum. Diagnosis is going to, do you identify embryonated or unembryonated ova?
Embryonated.
This one's going to be unembryonated. Identify unembryonated. Because what it does is it, you ingest the embryonated ova that grows up and has little babies of its own, but then it sends unembryonated ova into the stool so you can pass it and they can find their own host and live happily ever after. But they have to be embryonated at some point. They just don't have that inside your body. Now, key characteristics. So adult has a thin anterior with a thick posterior and a whip-like curled tail. And I'll show y'all all the pictures afterward. And then your ova. What's an ova? Do y'all know that?
The egg.
The egg. Yep. So your ova is the egg, and then the adult is the worm. So your ova for Trichuris trichuria is barrel-shaped, and that is a key identifying feature that usually comes up on tests as well. So barrel-shaped, has polar plugs, and I'll show you what those are when I show you the pictures as well. And then has a double wall. Now, the completely inappropriate way of remembering this, you have been fair warned. It's a barrel full of whips and tricks, and that's the way we learned it in school. And that was the last time our teacher ever asked us how we remembered things. So barrel full of whips and tricks. You know, they call like the prostitutes and stuff tricks sometimes. So you've got your tricks for Trichuris, trichuria. So your barrel is going to be the, let me get it down. So your barrel is the ova shape, characteristic ova shape, is barrel shaped. And then your whips is in reference to your, the curled tail on the adult worm. And then your tricks is going to be for Trichuris, trichuria. And one more, inappropriate enough, if the trick gets too rough, then you can get a prolapse rectum as a symptom. What were you going to ask, Michelle?
Are these just ways of breaking it down so you know what it is?
Yes. To know the different characteristics that go with that specific nematode.
Oh, now you've got me thinking about prostitutes.
You're welcome.
Collapsed
Okay.
butts.
So, what's the biggest one here? Not as good as it would be in person, but so here's your ova, and right here you can't tell so much in this picture, but maybe I can pull one up online. These right here are the polar plugs, and then see how it's more barrel shaped. So instead of being a nice little oval, it has like the little ends on each side, just like a barrel does.
Oh, okay.
And so you can see the barrel shape real good on here too. And then your whips, this is how they look. So essentially, and the way I understand it, is this is the anterior, their little mouth part, and then this is the posterior, which is like their tail end. But see how they have like little whip-like ends to them? They're real thick, and then it gets real thin. And let me see if I can find a better example of polar plugs. Okay, yeah, you can see it better here. Whoops. See how it looks like little plugs in it?
Yeah.
See those plugs? So those are the polar plugs, and they're barrel shaped because they're not that perfect oval. Oh, that's the wrong one, sorry. So that's our Trichuris, trichuria. Your main things for that one are going to be your barrel shape, your whip-like tail, and and your double wall. Then the next